On behalf of Nath Pragas, Shri Amritsar, I welcome everyone to this 3-day Amritsar Sahit Utsav being conducted for the 9th time. This special Sahit Utsav is dedicated to Dr. J.P.S. Oberoi, who was son of Mohan Singh Diwana, a renowned scholar of Punjabi literature. He was also the head of Punjab University, Chandigarh Punjabi Department. And Professor J.P.S. Oberoi was a prominent sociologist of her time. And the work that we are familiar with is his essay, first essay that I remember, The 5 Ks, and which published later as a book, Religion, Civil Society and State. It was published in 1916. Beside this, he had also contributed several research essays, articles and books such as The European Modernity, Science, Truth and Method, which published in 2002. And his most recent work is Mind and Society, from Indian Studies to General Sociology. Before we begin our event, I would like to make some announcements. Nath Pragas is a non-profit organization situated both in Punjab and USA. We are working in Amritsar for 3 decades now, and the domain of Nath Pragas' working happens to be Sikh research, literature, creative arts, philosophy. And Nath Pragas USA is also being launched to foster or envisage this vision in 2021. We also have other activities that we conduct, like every month, on 7th of every month, we conduct Creative Process event, where we invite an author from Punjab who shares his experience, how he writes, like we had event yesterday. So besides that, we also conduct Vivek Gosht event on every 15th of every month. It is an event where we discuss or read a book that a scholar select from his domain of study. So it could be a philosophical work or literature work, arts work, or from any area, also like technology or new sciences that we have. So besides that, we have this big event, Chadya Basant, and we have with us scholars from northern universities, and we are reaching beyond that also. And most of them are doing their research in different domains. And today's event is also an extension of these events that we does together. And I also would like to invite on stage Blossom Singh, who is a family relative of Professor Puran Singh. Ma'am, please come on stage. And ma'am is a representative of Professor Puran Singh, and she is the wife of Adesh Singh, who is a great grandson of Professor Puran Singh, and he is doing innovative research. And ma'am is also interested in literature, and she has her education from Punjab Agriculture University, and she has also teaching profession. And with that, I would also like to invite Dr. Gurnam Kaur Bedi on stage. Ma'am, please come. Ma'am is a former principal, and she has been very active participant in every program we conduct here at Nath Pragas, and she inspires us, and with her blessings we try to do our best. So with that, we will have today a book ceremony, and before we begin, I just want to just mention that like we are living in this modern globalized world where I think it is a kind of thing that we cannot escape from reaching out. We cannot limit ourselves to our own self. That is why we need this engagement with emerging world. And we cannot just kind of set back and put ourselves in a remorse that we had kind of a great tradition behind and capture ourselves there. But we can like foster or make a dialogue with this emerging philosophical questions, the ethical questions that are emerging in society. With that dream, we are publishing the works that has been forgotten, works that has not been in notice. So we have published several works which includes archival works, and mostly we are covering the works of Professor Puran Singh and Bhai Veer Singh. And with that, this kind of lively experience that we can have with the emerging models of knowledge, emerging models of technology, that we are not just sitting back and just thinking that our tradition was great. We are just trying to make that dialogue, to make a communication with that. That is why the books come in this world, like in their material form. That is why we are also trying to publish these works and kind of rejuvenate those experiences. So with that, we have us with today Dr. Jaswinder Singh, who is chairperson of Bhai Veer Singh, Punjabi University, Patiala. He has also published the work letters from Professor Puran Singh to Bhai Veer Singh, others. And with that, I would like to call Dr. Jaswinder Singh on stage and request Blossom Singh and Ma'am to Dr. Gurnam Kaur Bedi to release the books. So Golden Feathers are the archival letters published in 2023 by Nath Prakash Shri Amritsar. These letters brings many unknown facets of his life and thoughts, and these were like being forgotten. And so Dr. Jaswinder Singh, with his hard work, discovered these letters, and now they are published. And with that, I would call Mrs. Harjot Kaur, a research scholar from Nath Prakash, USA, and she has published. Ma'am, we are now have ceremony with 5 books. So 5 books we are releasing. So please, yeah. So please come on stage. Yeah. So Harjot Kaur has published this work Bhagirath that was unpublished, and more than 100 years there was a gap between that. So this work was work of Professor Puran Singh, and she has also published Sundari. Bhagirath. I think this work could not have been come to life without the support of the family of Professor Puran Singh, and we would like to thank Ma'am and her family from Nilambri Gai, late Pavan Singh, Aluwalia, Haribala, Gunita Kapoor, Adesh Singh, and Ma'am Blossom Singh. They have provided valuable assistance in the publication of this important classic work. and it was published in 2023 by Nath Prakash Shri Amritsar, and yeah. So she has also published another work, that is Sundari, and so this work includes also the introduction. So it was co-authored by Dr. Amandeep Singh and co-introduced by, sorry. So the introduction was also published by Routledge in Sikh Formation. So the Sundari novel was originally written by Bhai Veer Singh, and it was translated in 1924 in English by Professor Puran Singh, but it was never published since, and now it is published in 2023. With that, I would like to call Gurchetan Singh, who has introduced and compiled the work of Professor Puran Singh. The book is called Thundering Dawn. It is archival work, and this was a journal that was introduced by Professor Puran Singh in Japan, and he has with his work tried to compile it, and it was also later published in Amritsar and Lahore, and he compiled this work, and after 100 years or more, it is now in our hands. So I congratulate him. So this work also kind of tells us how he was very inspired from his literary activities that he continued in Japan also, and now we have this book in our hands. And with that, I would also like to introduce you all to a new book that is in Punjabi, Sukrat de Antim Din, Mukaddama Ate Samvad. It was a dialogue by Plato and translated by Bhai Veer Singh, and then researched and compiled by Dr. Harvinder Singh. Today he is not here, so I would request Dr. Jaswinder Singh. Please come and this work is kind of a realization of the dialogue of Socrates in the idiom of Sikh experience. So like Bhai Veer Singh calls Socrates as Mahatma. So in these dialogues he kind of like introduced. Yeah, the second book we have is by Shefali Bedi. She is also not present here. So I would request Dr. Jaswinder to do the ceremony. It is a book, Globalization and Social Networking. So, lastly, we are introducing the third issue of Makarand, and I would call Amandeep Singh to please come on stage. Amandeep Singh is a So we are very pleased to inform you that we had launched Makarand. Yes, so it is a kind of a magazine or a combination of newspaper. Yeah, it is edited by Amandeep Singh. It is published both in Amritsar and USA, America, and yeah, the first issue was launched on 40th of July 2023. The event was conducted at Punjab University, Chandigarh, at the very occasion of 150th birth anniversary of Bhai Veer Singh. And we are like very happy to announce that this is a third issue of Makarand. Hanji. So the concept of Makarand is to like kind of create a dialogue between those traditions. Makarand, the meaning of Makarand is like nectar, yeah, in a flower. So like there are different petals of a flower, so we are kind of creating a dialogue between philosophy, mythology, mysticism, aesthetics, science and politics, like every kind of sphere that we can. Yes. So with that, I would like to call Dr. Sukhvinder Singh to come on stage to please honor our guest. So I request ma'am, please. So Sukhvinder Singh is honoring Blossom Singh. So I would also like to call Akvinder Kaur to please honor Dr. Gurnaam Kaur Bedi. So now I would like to call Blossom Singh on stage to share her thoughts with us.
मैं प्रोफेसर जगदीश सिंह, डॉक्टर जसविंदर सिंह, डॉक्टर हरजोत कौर, अमनदीप सिंह, सारे ऑर्गेनाइजर्स ते आई संगत दा तह दिलों धन्नवाद करदी हाँ कि प्रोफेसर पूरन सिंह दियां लिखतां जिहड़ियां कि हले तक पब्लिश ना होने की वजह नाल लोकां तक नहीं सन पहुँच सकियां, अज तुसां सब दी बदौलत लोकी अते रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स इन्हां दा आनंद माण सकणगे। ये 3 किताबां भगीरथ, सुंदरी और जपजी साहब अनुवाद हैं, जिथों कि प्रोफेसर साहब दे हुनर दा पता चलदा कि किन्नियां भाषावां विच उन्होंने लिखिया है अते अनुवाद दी लिखतां जड़ियां ने वो उन्हां दी जिस्ट विच अनुवाद करना तो बहुत ही मुश्किल काम है। एक कविता का अनुवाद करना इतना मुश्किल होता है, तो प्रोफैसर साहब का तो ये बहुत ही श्रेय है। प्रोफैसर साहब ने जपजी साहब विच लिखते हैं, द सॉन्ग ऑफ आर जपजी इज आर डॉन, द कूलिंग म्यूजिक ऑफ सुखमनी is our day, the soft tender prayers of Rehras is our evening, the solemn and gorgeous song of Kirtan Soila is our night of golden dreams, fragrant with our days of worship and admiration. The simple and the infinite love in the form of unbroken Simran is our breath. मेरे मदर प्रोफैसर पूरन सिंह ਅਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਦੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਨਜ਼ਦੀਕ ਸਨ। ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਬੈਠੇ ਪਰਿਵਾਰਿਕ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਹੋ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਸਨ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਲਵਡ ਪੰਜਾਬ। He loved Punjab for its culture, for its language, for its richness, for its cultivation, for its beauty, and especially Trinjan. Professor Saab da ਪਿੰਡ ਸੀ ਡੇਰਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਜਿਹੜਾ 30 ਕਿਲੋਮੀਟਰ ਰਾਵਲਪਿੰਡੀ ਤੋਂ ਦੂਰ ਸੀ। ਤੇ ਉਹ ਡੇਰਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਚਾਰੋਂ ਪਾਸਿਓਂ ਪਹਾੜਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੇ ਸਟਰੀਮਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵਿਚਕਾਰ ਸੀ, ਤੇ ਸਟਰੀਮਸ ਨੂੰ ਪਾਰ ਕਰਕੇ ਡੇਰਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜਾਣਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਸੀ। ਡੇਰੇ ਖਾਲਸੇ 2 ਚਸ਼ਮੇ ਸਨ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਆਮ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਬੈਠਿਆ ਕਰਦੇ ਸਨ, ਉਹਦੀ ਸੁੰਦਰਤਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਡੁੱਬ ਕੇ ਤੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਆਨੰਦ ਮਾਣਿਆ ਕਰਦੇ ਸਨ। ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਭਾਵੁਕ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੇ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਵੀ ਸਨ। ਮਦਰ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਗੁਰੂ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਜਨਮ ਦਿਹਾੜਾ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਮਨਾਇਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਉੱਥੇ ਲੈਕਚਰ ਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਸਨ। ਲੈਕਚਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਉਹ ਇੰਨੇ ਭਾਵੁਕ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੂੰ ਚੁੱਕਿਆ, ਗਲੇ ਲਗਾਇਆ, ਗਲਵੱਕੜੀ ਪਾ ਲਈ, ਮੇਰਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਾਈਂ ਦੀ ਰੱਟ ਲਗਾ ਲਈ। ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਹਿੰਮਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਲੈ ਸਕਣ। ਬਾਅਦ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਿਰ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਵੀ, they asked me to say about Guru Gobind Singh. They asked me, what is he to me? I tremble when they ask me, what is he to me? Unable to say anything in reply, I burst forth into childlike cries of both joy and pain, and I faint away, knowing not what is he to me. Only I say, Guru glorious, Guru glorious, Guru glorious, and I am consoled. I slumber in the lap, soothed by the lullaby of my own sound, knowing not what is he to me. ਜਦੋਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਧੀ ਗਾਰਗੀ ਦਾ ਵਿਆਹ ਮਲਕ ਅਮਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਨਾਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਤਾਂ ਡੋਲੀ ਦੇ ਵੇਲੇ ਗਾਰਗੀ ਦੇ ਗਲ ਲੱਗ ਕੇ ਧਾੜਾ ਮਾਰ ਕੇ ਰੋਣ ਲੱਗ ਗਏ। ਗਲੇ ਲਗਾਇਆ, ਛੱਡਣ ਹੀ ਨਾ। ਸਾਰੇ ਜਣੇ ਉਡੀਕ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਕਦੋਂ ਪੂਰਨ ਗਾਰਗੀ ਨੂੰ ਛੱਡੇ ਤੇ ਗਾਰਗੀ ਡੋਲੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਬੈਠੇ, ਪਰ ਨਹੀਂ, ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਹਿੰਮਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਪੂਰਨ ਨੂੰ ਗਾਰਗੀ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਅਲੱਗ ਕਰ ਸਕਣ। ਉਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਨਾ ਜੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਕਰੀਬੀ ਦੋਸਤ ਵੀ ਸਨ ਤੇ ਰਿਸ਼ਤੇਦਾਰ ਵੀ ਸਨ। ਉਹ ਗਏ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਪੂਰਨ ਨੂੰ ਗਾਰਗੀ ਤੋਂ ਅਲੱਗ ਕੀਤਾ ਤੇ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ, ਪੂਰਨ ਤੂੰ ਕੱਲਾ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੁੜੀ ਤੋੜ ਰਿਹਾ, ਸਭ ਤੋੜਦੇ ਨੇ, ਤੂੰ ਵੀ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਕੁੜੀ ਵਿਆਹ ਕੇ ਲਿਆਇਆ। ਬਸ ਫੇਰ ਗਾਰਗੀ ਡੋਲੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾ ਬੈਠੀ ਤੇ ਮਲਕ ਅਮਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਹੋਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਪਹੁੰਚੀ, ਜਦ ਕਿ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਕਾਫੀ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਸੀ। ਇਹ ਲੈਵਲ ਸੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਪੂਰਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੇ ਇਮੋਸ਼ਨਸ ਦਾ। ਗਾਰਗੀ ਮੇਰੇ ਮਦਰ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਮਾਮੀ ਬਣ ਕੇ ਆਈ। ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਦੁਨਿਆਵੀ ਸੁਭਾਅ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਪੂਰਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਸੀਗੇ, ਤਕਰੀਬਨ ਉਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਸੁਭਾਅ ਦੇ ਮਾਮੀ ਗਾਰਗੀ ਵੀ ਸਨ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਮਟੀਰੀਅਲ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੋਈ ਪਿਆਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ। ਮੰਮਾ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਪੇਕਿਓਂ ਸ਼ਨੀਲ ਦਾ ਹਲਕੇ ਨੀਲੇ ਰੰਗ ਦਾ ਸੂਟ ਆਇਆ। ਉਦੋਂ ਸ਼ਨੀਲ ਨਵੀਂ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਈ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਸਿਰਫ ਬੰਬੇ ਮਿਲਦੀ ਸੀ। ਮਾਇਆ ਪੂਰਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਨੇ ਧੀ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਸੂਟ ਮੰਗਵਾਇਆ ਸੀ। ਉਹ ਸੂਟ ਪਾ ਕੇ ਗਾਰਗੀ ਮਲਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨਾਲ ਘੁੰਮਣ ਗਈ। ਵਾਪਸ ਆਏ ਤੇ ਮੰਮਾ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਗਾਰਗੀ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕੋ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਪਿਆਰ ਸੀ, ਸਿਰਫ ਇੱਕੋ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਪਿਆਰ ਸੀ, ਤੇ ਉਹ ਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਨੀਂਦ। ਗਾਰਗੀ ਉਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਸੂਟ ਦੇ ਸਮੇਤ ਸੌਂ ਗਏ। 2 ਘੰਟੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਉੱਠ ਕੇ ਆਏ। ਵਿਹੜੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਲਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਬੈਠੇ ਸਨ ਤੇ ਬੇਜੀ ਬੈਠੇ ਸਨ। ਮਲਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ, ਗਾਗਾ ਇੰਨਾ ਮਹਿੰਗਾ ਸੂਟ ਪਾ ਕੇ ਹੀ ਸੌਂ ਗਏ ਹੋ? ਤੇ ਅੱਗੋਂ ਜਵਾਬ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਮਲਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਮੇਰੀ ਨੀਂਦ ਤੋਂ ਮਹਿੰਗਾ ਨਹੀਂ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇਰਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਕਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ। ਨਵੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਚੁੱਕ ਕੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੇ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਸਨ। ਫਿਰ ਗਾਰਗੀ ਦੀ ਸੈਕਰੀਫਾਈਸ ਦੇਖੋ। She was a very sacrificing nature person also. ਗਾਰਗੀ ਅਤੇ ਮਲਕ ਅਮਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਛੋਟੀ ਜੀ ਧੀ ਨੇ ਜਨਮ ਲਿੱਤਾ, ਜਿਹਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਅਨੀਲਾ ਰੱਖਿਆ। ਬੜੇ ਹੀ ਲਾਡਾਂ ਪਿਆਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਅਨੀਲਾ ਨੂੰ ਪਾਲਦੇ ਸਨ। ਨਾਨਕਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਬੜੀ ਫੇਵਰੇਟ ਸੀ। 5-6 ਸਾਲ ਦੀ ਸੀ ਅਨੀਲਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਮਲਕ ਅਮਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਭੈਣ ਮੁਕੰਦ 6 ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵਿਧਵਾ ਹੋ ਗਈ। ਮਲਕ ਅਮਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਆਪਣੀ ਭੈਣ ਨੂੰ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਸਮੇਤ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰ ਲੈ ਆਏ। ਗਾਰਗੀ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਖੁੱਲੀਆਂ ਬਾਹਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਸਵੀਕਾਰ ਕੀਤਾ। ਕਦੇ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਮੁਕੰਦ ਦੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇ ਅਨੀਲਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਰਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਮਝਿਆ। ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਅਨੀਲਾ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਬੜੀ ਸੋਹਣੀ ਗੁੱਡੀ ਨਾਨਕਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਆਈ ਸੀ, ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰਦੀ ਸੀ। ਉਹ ਗੁੱਡੀ ਮੁਕੰਦ ਦੇ ਇੱਕ ਬੇਟੇ ਵੀਰ ਉਹਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੋੜ ਦਿੱਤੀ। ਭਰਾ ਨੇ ਗੁੱਡੀਆਂ ਤੋੜਨਾ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਹੈ ਤੋੜਨਾ, ਕੁੜੀਆਂ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਹੈ ਖੇਡਣਾ। ਤੇ ਅਨੀਲਾ ਰੋਂਦੀ ਰੋਂਦੀ ਗਾਰਗੀ ਕੋਲ ਚਲੀ ਗਈ ਤੇ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੀ, ਅੰਮੀ ਵੀਰ ਨੇ ਮੇਰੀ ਗੁੱਡੀ ਤੋੜ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੈ। ਗਾਰਗੀ ਅਨੀਲਾ ਨਾਲ ਬਹੁਤ ਨਾਰਾਜ਼ ਹੋਈ। ਕਹਿੰਦੀ, ਇਹ ਮੇਰੀ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਤੂੰ ਕਿਹਦੇ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਹੈ? ਮੇਰਾ ਕੁਛ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ। सब साझा है। Professor Puran Singh was a fiercely independent thinker and valued his freedom more than anything. This can be best seen during the last days of his life, where, knowing fully well that TB had no cure, he took a lady TB patient under his care, and as if a miracle happened, the lady went on to live many years after his death. और प्रोफेसर साहब की डेथ के उत्ते भाई वीर सिंह जी लिखते ने, तेरी सुरत उछाले तैनू खिदू ज्यों भड़कावन, फर्शों चुक अर्श वल तेरे हमले पे मरवावन, एक समय अर्श दे आ गई हथ कलाई, खिच लिया तैनू अपने बाग दे विच लावन। थैंक यू।
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your experience about Professor Puran Singh. Ma'am is the represented here to Professor Puran Singh, and with the help and blessings of your family, we have published his works. So again, thank you from our heart. So now I would like to call Dr. Gurnam Kaur Bedi to please come on dais and share her thoughts. Dr. Gurnam Kaur Bedi.
बहुत सत्कारयोग मैडम ब्लॉसम सिंह जी, नाद प्रगास दे सारे ही विद्वान सज्जन, बाहरों आए बहुत विद्वान स्कॉलर्स, सब तो पहला मैं अज जिन्हां दियां किताबां इत्थों रिलीज़ होईयां ने उन्हां सब विद्वानां नूं बहुत बहुत मुबारक देंदी हाँ। असी अपने बचपन तो प्रोफैसर पूरन सिंह होरां बारे किताबां दे विच बहुत बहुत कुछ पढ़ते आए। साडे महबूब शायर प्रोफैसर पूरन सिंह जिन्हां दा नाम लैंदियां ही साडे अंदर भी कविता दे वलवलियां दे दरिया वहन लग जाते हैं। ये मैं अज दे दिन नूं अपना बड़ा वड्डा सुभाग समझदी हाँ कि उन्हां दे परिवार जनां दे नाल अज साडा मेल होया ते उन्हां दे इन्ने मिठे बोल, भावुक बोल सुनदियां इंज लग्या जिवें प्रोफैसर पूरन सिंह साक्षात किते साडे सामने आ गए होन ते अपने आप नूं उस युग दे विच महसूस करदियां उन्हां दियां गल्लां सुनदियां एक अद्भुत आनंद दी अज अनुभूति हुई। उन्हां बारे किताबां दे विच बहुत कुछ पढ़िया, उन्हां दे व्यक्तित्व बारे, उन्हां दियां लिखतां बारे, पर सच्ची गल यह है कि जो कुछ अणलिखत सी जिन्हों पंजाबी जगत ने कदी पढ़िया ही नहीं, कदी सुनिया ही नहीं, नाद प्रगास ने वो सारे अणफरोले वर्के प्रकाशित करके पूरी कौम ते एक बहुत बड़ा एहसान किया है। अज प्रोफैसर साहब दियां 3 किताबां रादर ਚਾਰ ਹੀ ਹੋਈਆਂ, ਥੰਡਰਿੰਗ ਡੌਨ, ਸੁੰਦਰੀ, ਭਾਗੀਰਥ, ਗੋਲਡਨ ਫੈਦਰਸ। ਇਹ ਚਾਰੇ ਪੁਸਤਕਾਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਹੁਣ ਤੱਕ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਜਗਤ ਜਾਂ ਪੂਰਾ ਹਿੰਦੁਸਤਾਨ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਲਿਖਤਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਜਾਣੂ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਲਿਖਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਲਿਆ ਕੇ ਇੱਕ ਬੜੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਉਪਕਾਰ ਵਾਲੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਾਦ ਪ੍ਰਗਾਸ ਨੇ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਨਾਦ ਪ੍ਰਗਾਸ ਦੇ ਸਕਾਲਰਸ ਜਦੋਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਇਸ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਨਾਲ ਬਹੁਤ ਦੇਰ ਤੋਂ ਜੁੜੀ ਹਾਂ, ਕਿ ਉਹ ਆਪਣੀ ਪੂਰੀ ਜੀ ਜਾਨ ਇਸ ਤੇ ਲਗਾ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਇੱਥੋਂ ਤੱਕ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹ ਕਿਤਾਬ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ, ਉਹਦੀ ਛਪਾਈ ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਟਾਈਟਲ, ਉਹ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇਤਨਾ ਆਨੰਦ, ਇਤਨੀ ਸੀਤਲਤਾ, ਇਤਨਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਆਰਟ ਦੀ ਗਹਿਰਾਈ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਵਾਕਈ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦੀ ਰਮਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਪਕੜਿਆ, ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਗੁਰਮਤ ਦੇ ਸਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣਿਆ, ਤੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਉਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਗਹਿਰਾਈਆਂ ਤੱਕ ਇੱਕ ਗਹਿਰੀ ਟੁੱਬੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਲਗਾ ਲਈ ਹੈ। ਤਾਂ ਉਸ ਦੀ ਇੱਕ ਦਿੱਖੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇੰਨਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਵੱਲ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਵੱਲ ਆਕਰਸ਼ਿਤ ਕਰ ਲੈਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਖੂਬਸੂਰਤੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਪੁਸਤਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਦਿੱਖ ਤੋਂ ਹੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਭਾਰਤੀ ਗਿਆਨ ਪਰੰਪਰਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਭਾਗੀਰਥ ਗੰਗਾ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਏ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਭਾਗੀਰਥ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਪੂਰਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਨੇ ਖੁਦ, ਉਹ ਭਾਗੀਰਥ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਕਰੈਕਟਰ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਪੂਰੀ ਗਿਆਨ ਦੀ ਪਰੰਪਰਾ, ਸੱਭਿਆਚਾਰ ਦੀ ਪਰੰਪਰਾ, ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੀ ਪਰੰਪਰਾ, ਗੁਰੂਆਂ ਦੀ ਪਰੰਪਰਾ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਰਮਜ਼ਾਂ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਗਹਿਰਾਈਆਂ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਖੁਦ ਮਾਣੀਆਂ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਵਿਤਾ ਰਾਹੀਂ, ਆਪਣੇ ਬੋਲਾਂ ਰਾਹੀਂ, ਆਪਣੀ ਵਾਰਤਕ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਤੱਕ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਈਆਂ। ਔਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੋਈ ਵਿਧਾ ਬਾਕੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹਿਣ ਦਿੱਤੀ। ਭਾਸ਼ਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੇ ਗਿਆਤਾ ਹੈ ਹੀ ਨੇ। ਜਿਤਨੀ ਖੂਬਸੂਰਤੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, ਜਿਤਨੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਦੀਆਂ ਕਹਿ ਲਈਏ ਕਿ ਪੂਰੀਆਂ ਡਾਇਲੈਕਟਸ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਪਕੜ ਕੇ ਉਹ ਕਵਿਤਾ ਦੀ ਇੱਕ ਰਵਾਨਗੀ ਪੇਸ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਵੀ ਕਿਤੇ ਵੱਧ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਵਾਰਤਕ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਖਿੱਚਦੀ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਭਾਗੀਰਥ ਇੱਕ ਨਾਵਲ ਦੇ ਰੂਪ ਵਿੱਚ, ਔਰ ਹੁਣ ਤੱਕ ਸੱਚੀ ਇਹ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਿ ਭਾਗੀਰਥ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਜਾਂ ਹਿੰਦੀ ਵਿੱਚ। ਬਹੁਤ ਦੇਰ ਤੱਕ ਤਾਂ ਇਹੀ ਭੁਲੇਖਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਹਿੰਦੀ ਦਾ ਹੀ ਇੱਕ ਨਾਵਲ ਹੈ, ਬਟ ਇਹ ਜਦੋਂ ਓਰੀਜਨਲੀ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆਇਆ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਮੈਂ ਸਮਝਦੀ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਨਾਦ ਪ੍ਰਗਾਸ ਦੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ ਕੰਟਰੀਬਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਭਾਗੀਰਥ ਨੂੰ ਐਡਿਟ ਕਰਨ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਔਰ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਨਾ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਰੂਪ ਦੇਣ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਮੈਡਮ ਹਰਜੋਤ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਮੁਬਾਰਕ ਦਿੰਦੀ ਹਾਂ, ਔਰ ਆਸ ਕਰਦੀ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਲਿਖਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਲਿਆਉਣਗੇ। ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਚੰਡੀਗੜ੍ਹ ਦੇ ਇੱਕ ਸੈਮੀਨਾਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਸੁਣਿਆ, ਜਿੰਨੀ ਪਿਆਰੇ ਢੰਗ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਆਪਣੀ ਗੱਲ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਨੇ, ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਆਕਰਸ਼ਿਤ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ। ਡਾਕਟਰ ਜਸਵਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਬਹੁਤ ਦੇਰ ਤੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਹਿ ਲਈਏ ਕਿ ਇੰਨਾ ਕੁ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਪੂਰਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੀਆਂ ਲਿਖਤਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਕੰਮ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਉਹ ਆਪ ਹੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਪੂਰਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਦਾ ਰੂਪ ਲੱਗਣਾ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਨੇ। ਅਤੇ ਇੰਨਾ ਕੁ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਰਚਨਾ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ, ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਕਦੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਬੈਠਣ ਦਾ ਮੌਕਾ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਹੈ, ਅਤੇ ਸਿਵਾਏ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਪੂਰਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਤੋਂ, ਭਾਈ ਵੀਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੁਝਦੀ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਪੂਰਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਤੇ ਭਾਈ ਵੀਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੇ ਰਚਨਾਵਾਂ ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਸਮਰਪਿਤ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਮਰਪਿਤ ਭਾਵਨਾ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਨਮਸਕਾਰ ਕਰਨ ਨੂੰ ਮੇਰਾ ਜੀਅ ਕਰਦਾ। ਅਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਦੋਵੇਂ ਕਿਤਾਬਾਂ, ਗੋਲਡਨ ਫੈਦਰਸ ਵੀ ਔਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਤਾਬਾਂ ਆਈਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਅੱਜ ਰਿਲੀਜ਼ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਨੇ, ਥੰਡਰਿੰਗ ਡੌਨ ਵੀ, ਥੰਡਰਿੰਗ ਡੌਨ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਮੈਂ ਗੁਰਚੇਤਨ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਬੜੀ ਮੁਬਾਰਕ ਦਿੰਦੀ ਹਾਂ। ਇਹ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਤੋਂ ਸੁਣਦੀ ਆਈ ਹਾਂ, ਬਹੁਤ ਫਿਲੋਸੋਫੀਕਲੀ ਬੜੀ ਗਹਿਰਾਈ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਚਿੰਤਨ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਅਤੇ ਡੂੰਘੀਆਂ ਰਮਜ਼ਾਂ ਪਕੜਦੇ ਨੇ। ਮੈਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਘਾਲਨਾ ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੁਬਾਰਕ ਦਿੰਦੀ ਹਾਂ, ਔਰ ਆਸ ਕਰਦੀ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਅੱਗੋਂ ਵੀ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਇਹ ਖੂਬਸੂਰਤ ਪੁਸਤਕਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਦੇਣਗੇ। ਅਤੇ ਭਾਈ ਵੀਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ कि कोई भाई वीर सिंह होरां ने सुकरात दे कोई लैटर्स दे विच भी या उन्हां दी जिहड़ा डायलॉग सी जिहड़ा उन्हां ने अपने अंतले वेले इदां कीता वो भी कोई रचना एग्जिस्ट करती है या वो भी कोई रचना हैगी है। एक किताब पर चांस मैनू पहला भी पूरी पढ़न का नाद प्रगास ने मैनू एक फंक्शन दी दी तो मैनू पढ़न का मौका मिलिया। मैं वाकई जिमें स्टेज तो कह रहे सी कि सुकरात नू एक महात्मा समझना और उन्होंने ये समझना कि काल तो परे दियां ये चीज़ां ने, क्योंकि जेड़े जेड़े लफज वो बोल रहे ने वो अंतिम सच वर्गे इदां दे शब्द ने जेड़े सानू गुरमत दे बहुत नज़दीक ते बहुत नेड़े लगते हैं। इसलिए भाई साहब भाई वीर सिंह उन्हां रचनावां नू पकड़ के साडे सिख जगत दे सामने इस तरह रखते हैं कि असी दुनिया दियां जो जो वड्डे चिंतक ने उन्हां दियां भी वो सच दियां गल्लां ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ कि यूनीवर्सल ने असी उन्हां यूनीवर्सल गल्लां नू अपनी पकड़ विच लिया सकीए ते अपने चिंतन दे दायरे नू होर विशाल कर सकीए। मकरंद दा बड़ा खूबसूरत एक मैगजीन एक पत्रिका, हाँ इहदा नाम ही बड़ा खूबसूरत है कि मकरंद। इस दे विच पहला भी इहदा एक अंक मैं देखिया, इहदे विच बंधना तो पार दियां गल्लां ने सारियां, चाहे वो चिंतन दे नाल संबंधित ने, चाहे वो आर्ट दे नाल संबंधित ने, चाहे वो संगीत दे नाल संबंधित ने। कोई ऐसा खेतर जिहड़ा मनुखी मन नू किसी किस्म की विशालता प्रदान करता है वो इस दे विशाल दायरे दे विच समा गया। मैं इस चिंतन की दात देंदी हाँ कि साडे सिख स्कॉलर्स नू, आने वाली नस्ल नू, आने वाले बच्चों नू जिस तरह विशाल दायरे विच सोचना चाहिए, साहित्य तो पार भी सारियां कलावां बारे और जो कुछ यूनीवर्स विच वापर रहा उस बारे, तो उन्होंने मकरंद ने अपने कलावे दे विच ले लिया। मैं होर बहुता कुछ ना कहते हुए नाद प्रगास संस्था की बहुत बहुत शुक्रगुजार हाँ कि मैनू इतना मान देंदे ने और मैं लगभग हर गतिविधि दे नाल जुड़ी रहंदी हाँ और अपने आप नू भी नित नवां इस करके महसूस करती हाँ कि नाद प्रगास नित नवे चिंतन खेतर चुनदा है, नित नवे चिंतन खेतरां वाल साडी झात पवांदा है और उस चिंतन खेतर दे नाल साडे सारे श्रोतियां दा और सारे जो भी इस दे नाल जुड़े लोग ने उन्हां दे दायरे नू विशाल करन दा एक अपना बहुत अनोखा ते बहुत भविखमुखी जो एक दृष्टि दे रहा और इस दृष्टिकोण तो काम कर रहा। ये दृष्टि देने दे लई, ये नवियां नवियां सांझां पाउण दे लई और आज खास तौर पे प्रोफैसर साहब दे पूरे परिवार दे नाल मिलाउण लई मैं नाद प्रगास दी बहुत बहुत शुक्रगुजार हाँ। शुक्रिया।
Thank you, ma'am, for your blessings. You always inspire us, and I think we are running late, so without any delay, we are going to proceed for our next session. So I would like to call Varun Vigmal to come on stage and proceed for the second session.
Thank you so much, Jaswinder. जगह नहीं है बैंड की Yeah, thank you so much, Jaswinder. Without wasting any time, let's start the second session, which is basically on the recent debates on Indian secularism. And we have three eminent speakers here. So firstly, I would like to invite Professor Michael Lawrence, who is a lawyer and an eminent scholar who works in political philosophy. Professor Mike, take the stage. And then we have Dr. Amandeep Singh, belongs to Nath Vikas US, director. And then we have Professor Keshav. I think he's coming in a few minutes. So yeah, we have Professor Keshav here, who is professor in philosophy at the Department of Philosophy, University of Delhi. We welcome Professor Keshav. So this session is basically on the recent debates on Indian secularism. I think this secularism, the debate on secularism is very interesting, or rather I would say has become a rather contentious debate in contemporary times. But secularism is a very interesting rather phenomena, because in Indian context it has been definitely part of our basic structure of our constitution, and there has been serious debates on what secularism is by eminent scholars, especially in political science departments. But I feel there has been less engagement on the question that what secularism means to India and what secularism entails. Specifically speaking, for instance, there are two understandings of secularism. That secularism is all about strict separation between religion and politics in the Western context, as it has been seen in US or in France. And in Indian context, it is sort of understood that it's about Sarv Dharam Sambhav, which is equal respect and dignity to all religions. But in this discourse, I feel that sometimes a serious deliberation is on religion, and serious deliberation on what religion is, what it entails, what are its different dimensions, sometimes tends to be missing. And also, how shall we engage with the question of the engagement between religion and politics? What shall we do with religion? What shall we do with politics and their engagement? We know that India definitely it's a country where religion is all pervasive. It is seen everywhere. But despite that, there has been attempt by many scholars to sort of ignore it and to sort of argue that it's a relic of the past. With secularization, it is going to go away. I feel that this is sort of problematic, because religion, in my understanding, it's not going anywhere. But how shall we deal with religion? What shall we do in that context? How shall we understand it? And what shall we do with the secular frame, which is not about secularization, but which is about a frame wherein reality is perceived in a manner wherein things that belong to the other world are given consideration, but without negating this world. So can we envision secularism where this world is equally important, not the other world, not just the other world? I'm not denying that there should be no consideration of the other world, but how shall we deal with this worldly affairs? And there lies the importance of the dimension of politics and the interaction between religion and politics. And that is what the debate on secularism is. Without further deliberation, I would like to invite first Professor Michael. Professor Mike.
So when I look at religion, I think of the first book I read of modern political philosophy, Machiavelli, who wrote in his discourses on the 10 books of Titus Livy, that all philosophers think all religions are false, and politicians believe that all religions are useful. And therefore, I have to ask myself, how does religion get into a political system? How does it become a majority faction? Very often it comes through the democratic element. There is a natural tendency of the human mind and spirit to be curious. No one will ever take away our curiosity about what happens when we die. No amount of science will ever answer this question. Religion will always come into the minds of the curious and the enlightened. It's impossible for a state, and improper for a state, to try to stop it. And the democratic element will supply this. The aristocratic elements, which end up forming government, usually, especially because courts are not all the people, they are some of the people. Legislatures are not all the people, they are some of the people. A chief executive is not all the people, they are one of the people. These elements will manipulate and abuse the democratic element. They will try to trick it, or they will try to channel it with abuses of the press, with destructions of the freedom of speech, of the freedom of association. These are age-old techniques that the aristocracy and the monarchic elements of a constitution will use in order to distort and warp the democratic element so that its impact will be obscured or eclipsed or restrained or channeled. So in this way, I look at the question of secularism, especially as it grows in the United States. Right now, the United States is experiencing a court which has usurped legislative power to a great degree by finding rights in the Constitution which were never written there, but which poets can find if they look. The answer that the legislature has come up with is to usurp executive power and push it down the throats of the states, which is abusing the federal division of powers. So this is my lens, a geometric lens of 9-part separations of powers that I apply to these questions. And lens, think about the issues of injustice, which are most prominent in your mind. Apply this 9-part lens and see which elements of the Constitution are out of balance. And if they could be brought into balance, and in what ways they can be brought into balance. I don't have the answer for you today. I'm a philosopher. Philosophers don't have answers. We have questions. Philosophy is questions. Answers, that is ideology. I don't have it. But in my book, The Geometry of Justice, I suggest this framework, this lens for people to use. The book, unfortunately, defends itself against the risk of ever being read because it is boring and long and heavy. And it fell stillborn from the press when it was first released. It is the story of a legendary woman's quest for justice. It is the girl Antigone, brought into the United States and prosecuted by American courts for the crime she committed in Sophocles' famous play. And in that, she argues that the United States is unjust. And the United States appears before the court and says, well, if you think we're unjust, you better define justice. And the court steps in and says, well, we'll do just that. And they argue back and forth for the next 500 pages or so in a way that's sure to put anyone to sleep. Even me, I can't read 5 pages of it without falling asleep. So I do hope everyone will take a look at it. If you have insomnia, I highly recommend it. But in this way, I'm hoping to shed a light on the question of secularism, especially in a newly secular country, the United States, where the opinions of a majority are threatening the safety of a minority in a popular government system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Mike, for this very creative, I would say, endeavor of yours, wherein you are trying to collect theoretical mathematical formulation with a certain understanding of politics, and then you framed your question of secular. How do you perceive secular? I feel that 2 points are very crucial in your discourse. One is the centrality of justice, and the inevitability of looking into the question of justice when you're looking into the question of secular or secularism in Indian context. And taking the question of minorities are extremely important, especially in contemporary Indian context, because India definitely is moving towards a certain direction. So how can we understand the minority problem? I think your frame is very crucial for that. And the other thing that I really admire is what you've said, that there is a rise of atheism in America, atheistic left. So how shall we deal with that? How do we perceive that? As you also pointed out, that religion is will be there. So secularization, especially in Indian context, if we see, is not going to happen. So religion will be there. So how shall we deal with religion? Taking the question of justice, minority rights quite seriously. We have to deliberate on that. So thank you so much again. And now I would like to invite Amandeep Singh, who is the director of Nath Prakash, United States of America. Amandeep Singh.
Thank you, Varun. And it was a really enlightening talk, Mike. I'll start with, I have a little longer presentation, so I'll try to be very quick. I'm coming directly to the point. Secularism, as I see, it's not a noun, proper noun in itself. It's more of an adjective with the features that are there in this. So some of the features that include a division of power between the public and the private space. It also includes the state to be neutral in some sense, and especially in terms of religion. State to protect the minority and minority rights, and therefore the hegemony of the majority can be curtailed by a secular state. And the state is sovereign in matters relating to the temporal world. So state can scrutinize the activity and the materiality of religion in public domains. So these are like combination of 4 or 5 features that define secularism in some broader sense. So, however, if we try to read through the types of secularism, there is no one particular secularism that goes around the world. We have a notion that it's only one kind of secularism, but secularism itself is it has many varieties in it. For example, the French secularism is kind of a full division between the religion and the temporal or the state, and then the American secularism is more like religiously tolerant. So it gives you a space for healthy religious discourses. You find religious chairs in American universities very often, and they can conduct research very openly on their religious background. So this has the American secularism is a little bit different than the secularism, because that kind of strict division is not there. Then there is Russian and the Chinese secularism, which is more like an atheist kind of secularism that we generally see around. And in these different scenarios, there is we want to fit in the Indian secularism. So how does the Indian secularism defines or gets contextualized in these backgrounds of different kind of secularisms that we see today? So it depends upon the political ideologies and the political debates. I feel that these are the really key motivating factors in the secularism, the definition of the secularism in India, and it's a very dynamic kind of secularism in India. It has been very high. Indian society had been moving from a hyper secularism to a religious neutral secularism, and today it's like a hyper religious kind of society, which is deriving this the new meaning of secularism, which actually contests that the original secularism that India adopted is a kind of pseudo secularism that kind of varies. So we have like the dynamics within secularism is too much shifting in India, and that shift is although secularism is we think that it has been borrowed and implanted from the European colonization, but India had its own kind of secularisms in the pre-colonial times too. Like for example, the works, the Akbar's reign was, when we imagine that reign, we always consider it to be a secular reign. So that kind of, similarly Ashoka's reign was also considered to be a secular reign or secular monarchy in itself. So however, this is just the broader picture that I'm trying to present here on the Indian secularism. So, but the hyper-secularism in that backdrop, it was adopted because of the partition that happened in 1947, and that led to serious religious violence. So with the 1947 events, there was a lot of violence going on. So the stance that the state took at that particular time was to have a strict division between the religious and the secular sphere or the public domain. So that kind of imagination, the public imagination kept working for around 20 to 20 years, almost like 2 decades. And by 1970s, it became more of a religiously accommodating society, more religiously accommodating state. So they were more involving religion into the political discourses during that time. And post 1980s is the rise of the extreme religion in the societies that we see here. So secularism today is however, like this is just keeping this historical background of Indian secularism at the back of what we are, how we theorize. So keeping that in our mind, secularism today is, however, it's criticized both by the conservative religious groups, but at the same time it's also criticized by the post-colonial scholars at the same time. For some reason, and because the post-colonial scholars, they feel that secularism is unable to protect the minority rights, unable to impart justice, so that kind of thing is there, so they don't relate with secularism of today. So besides these criticisms that are coming from because the right wing or the real conservative groups, as well as from the post-colonial scholars having not a very positive view on secularism, what are the core things that are actually driving this? This may appear from the political standpoint. We may agree or disagree with this. However, what are the limitations of the secularism that are in itself, which do not that cause these kind of narratives to be built both in academia as well as in the public discourse? So the first one is that it's a secularism. I believe it's a kind of self-contradictory in some ways. And I'm trying to use a little bit of caution to say this, but I believe that there is a self-contradiction within secularism itself, and it is because secularism is actually supposed to be a worldly domain, temporal domain, kind of state domain thing, but it continues to focus too heavily on religion rather than actually focusing on the temporal or the worldly state where we live. So the focus is entirely on religion or controlling the religion, but not on actually the politics. So which is more of a worldly thing. So secularism does not define how the politics could be done. So it does not have any kind of resonance in the political division. So it's an ideology. It's a political ideology itself, but it's not something that is a practicable day-to-day thing like we practice religion. So it does not enters into the domain of the temporal world. It has no devices to manage racism or excessive capitalism or kind of income disparities, all those kind of things that are actually related with the worldly domain. Secularism has no tools. It has nothing to offer in these domains. So it remains too much focused on only the religion aspect, and it cannot control the racial camouflaging of the religion. So the religion today or the politics today is actually camouflaged in some sense. It's a camouflaging of religion into a racial understanding of religion. So that secularism in itself is unable to actually address that part in some sense. So it cannot control the racial camouflaging of religion, and which is actually available in contemporary world as well. So in that background, like, I feel that this is what secularism has, that's why it has been not debated and having not much meaning these days. So why has, my question here is, why has secularism remained undefined or unadopted as a state policy? It's not adopted as a state policy, but which can withstand all the political spectrums in India. So why is this not adopted as a state policy, regardless of the political party which comes into picture? So what are the reasons for that? So I try to dig into that. So like in United States, during the Donald Trump's time, there was no change in the educational systems or syllabus of people or something like that. But in India, there is it's often a saying that what is the origin of Aryan race, and it depends on the which political party is in governance. So if there is the more right wing, they will try to put the Aryan race as a home origin to India itself. So that kind of debates, like you see that changes in the syllabuses, changing in the educational environment, all the sociology, the political science, the history, it keeps changing with the change in the shift in the political system. While secularism itself is having no meaning in it, in actually doing the discourse on that side. So a strict secularism as a concept in India is still, I feel, little foreign to Indian mind. So even after 75 years of nation building, so it's a little bit still a kind of foreign concept. And the society, because the society overall, it's too religious. It's a religious society. So while secularism is more of a kind of thing which is more trying to dictate that religion is little less important in some sense. So secularism is therefore not a very strong concept in India. People don't want, like, they don't fight or die for secularism, but they will fight or die for religion. So they are it's not a part of one's being. So basically it does not motivate the desires or the imagination of the people are not so much deeply connected in secularism, but as they are deeply connected in religion. So religion is more stronger concept than secularism. So secularism has not. Another reason that I find here is that in India, the secularism has not evolved from historical dialectics as it has happened in Europe, especially after the Renaissance period. So there is no Hegelian term like Aufhebung that has happened in secularism over here. So it's in Europe, the Aufhebung of secularism has happened very often. So secularism is in India is not a universal. It's not a universally developed from small universals. So there are too many small universals which are already existing in the Indian history or Indian context. But the overall the universal of secularism does not take all those universals into consideration to make it more solid kind of something that imbibes all the universals of different cultures in India. So my next question is: so what is the future of secularism in India? So with all these backgrounds of history and the political debates and the theoretical understandings of secularism, how is secularism? What future lies for secularism in India? So secularism, Indian form of secularism has developed from has to develop from within its constitution, from its. So that's what I believe. The Indian secularism has to define itself, taking into consideration the pluralism, the cultures, the different types of the natures of the societies. That has to be taken into consideration for developing an Indian kind of secularism. And the equivalent term of secularism that is very much available in Indian context, and which I believe can be much more stimulating in the imagination of in Indian context. I believe I want to be very cautious about saying this, but I think the term Maryada, which is there inside this Indian understanding, has a much wider role that it can play in Indian democracies and in Indian secularism. So that Maryada is something which is both an internalized form of one's being, and it is also extended into the social Maryada or the political Maryada. So that is something which can actually offer a new narrative, something which can offer a new idea into secular world, and which also has a religious backdrop in it. And I think that is something that is worth that people might find as strong as religion itself. So people would want to be standing for Maryada much more strongly then they would want to relate with secularism. So secularism itself might sound foreign, but this is something which will be imbibed from the religious constitution of India. So this is where I believe that the Sikh subject here, it has an episteme to offer and to enunciate a voice that lies ignored in some ways, in many contexts. So the conception of God as nirvair, the conception of God as nirvair is very much the key to defining maryada. So that nirvair is actually which renders the and a meeting point of maryada. That's what I believe that can probably give a new meaning to this. Maryada has potential for new imagination. So we can imagine ourselves, or the political society can imagine itself, and the cultures, they do imagine itself, and they can do that by imbibing the idea of nirvair in the true essence, which is the true essence of maryada in a certain way. And the scholarly discourses, that's my second, almost last submission. Scholarly discourses, I believe, should take Guru Granth Sahib a little bit more seriously. It is not, Guru Granth Sahib is not merely a religious scripture. It has episteme of Shabd tradition which is there inside it. So that episteme, the gyan in Guru Granth Sahib has much more to offer than just emotional or religious understanding that we generally sense. So that can actually make a broader, larger picture of a new understanding, raising a new imagination in this society. And nirvair is not another point that I wanted to mention here is the word. If you look a little bit closely, the word nirvair is not a positive signifier. So it is it is not something that is, yes, it is there. It is something that has because anytime if you have a positive signifier, it will be more suited into human will and human ego. So that suturing of ego's assertion into political domain can be postponed with the idea of nirvair, because it is nirvair, it means no envy in certain very literal terms, if I want to say that. So it's a it's a kind of negative signifier, So that negative signifiers always help to open up by taking the no-thingness into its own being. So there is no thingness here which is involved. Here. So basically, the Sikh concept of na ko vairi nahi begana, sagal sang humko banai. So this has a potential definitely has a potential to add new meanings to secularism and to add new meanings to the Indian ways of relating with secularism. I'll conclude with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I think it's a very relevant point that you've raised. Specifically, if you look at T.N. Madan's work, he calls secularism as dialectics of Protestant Christianity and modern science. I think this is a very important point, because if one delve into the affective notion of this debate going on right now in affective sciences of religion and secular, scholars are now saying that secular is equally affective, it's equally emotional. So this enchantment is sort of a sort of a myth. So we have never been enchanted. For instance, if you look at Bruno Latour's work, he would say that religion has everything to do with immediacy. So he reformulates religion in one of his work, How Not to Misunderstand the Debate Between Religion and Science. He's trying to argue that science, as generally being seen that it deals with the immediate stuff, is more transcendental and religion is more immediate. So he's trying to give a new understanding of religion. So I would sort of ask you in that sense that as you claim that religion, secularism has dealt more with religion, I feel that secularism has not properly understood religion, secular discourse. That what is religion in its first place? Is it all about the other world, or it has a dimension of immanence and the whole definitional understanding of it? So this could be the question that you can answer later. And now I would like to call Professor Keshav, who's the Department of Philosophy of Delhi University. Professor Keshav, thank you.
I'm not an expert on secularism, but at the same time I have concern about secularism. As you know, the secularism as a theory and as a practice most attacked and abused term in this country. Somebody said it is, we put on ventilation, this word secularism. But today to speak about secularism means to speak about ourselves, our society, our polity, in simple terms, about our democracy. Secularism as a democratic ideal to live together. It is not something it is getting from the books, from everyday social life. While living together and also living harmoniously, we came with this kind of concept of secularism. Secularism looks modern or constitutional. Prior to that, it is already internalized in a different level in our society. As a multicultural society, the world seems to be very newly fascinated by the academic intellectuals, but the fact is that our society is multicultural, and also we have negotiated, engaged for a long time. Even from the classical times, where from the ancient Vedic time we have seen it is Sramana tradition, different traditions. Sramana is not only one tradition, many traditions. And it is also this kind of cultural kind of heritage and legacy we have carried. And only at the time of Constitution as a value, we are agreed upon, we want to live together. We added the legal kind of addition for this one. And it is evolved as a political culture through the public reasoning. And that way, this word, the secularism today, it is, we feel in a bad state to look at ourselves, our polity, and also very particularly the democracy, the secularism word, it is a only superficial level word, but at a deeper level to oppose or support the secularism, it has a lot of meaning, it is there. Today to speak about secularism means not only to speak about democracy. To speak about secularism means it is also not just talking about it is the freedom of religion, or is also tolerance towards the other religions. It is also equally important to speak about the irrationality of religion and dogmatism of religious faiths, and also make our religions much more reasonable. That level also, it is, one can look at that one. And also it is today the way it is, the people try to, the defending the secularism, it is also defending, as I told you, it is defending ourselves and also questioning the authority and also surveillance power. The surveillance state, the way it is almost it is try to control the people in a different form, different ways. Not only it is in a particular level, the whole state and its people also are taken for control, how they as controlling subjects. And as it is more than it is only people try to talk about it is as a secularism came as a modern value, or it is taken from the Western, which separates from the state and also the religion. And as you know, definitely it's a modern value. More than modern value, it is a civilizational value. The modernity, as you know it very well, it has immense faith in humanity rather than divine authority. And also, it is enlightenment, rationality, and scientific spirit very much internalized in this world, and also internalized in the idea of the secularism also. It came with upholding the principle of democracy against the monarchy and divine authority. The underlying term is, you know it very well, tolerance towards other. Of course, somebody may say this thing as a concept of the market, and to extending the market, tolerance is a compulsory value. But at the same time, but even whatever the form it may became there and all, the relate to others and also concern for others, it has a differently, it is a very different kind of value where one can uphold in a society where we are living, in the world where we are living. And it is same today, to contextualize the today's context, long back, 15 years back, it is Mark Juergensmeyer. The title of he has written a book, title of the book itself, Religious Nationalism Confronting the Secular State. This is what even the Michael also talk about. It is not only in India and all over the world, religious nationalism. After the collapse of Russia also, where we can see some Islamic nationalism, other way it is Christian nationalism. As I talk about in the nations like the America and other places also, one can see this kind of phenomena. There may be, the factors are many, it has to, one can explain in different level. And here it is the way further, let me, the context where we try to, today is the world, the most, as I told you, it is the people are trying to hate this world. And also people say it as a pseudo-secularism we are practicing, taken from the Western, and we have different kind of the secularism it is there. Nobody to teach to us to this kind of secularism, how to live. But it is all right, but you try to talk about the people who try to say this kind of having this kind of approach. At the same time, they are not allowing any kind of the pluralism, any kind of the democratic value which were nurtured for a long time. And also, they're demanding that delete this word from even the constitution itself. It is a really pathetic state where we are living and all. We hate this word. It means it has its own politics. As somebody tried to say this one, it is the majoritarian term. Majoritarian means not a political majority. It is also majority in terms of the communal majority. Majoritarianism. This communal majoritarianism dubbed as a democracy and dubbed as, the populism, how undermining the real democratic nations, democratic spirit of the country everywhere and all. And exactly where is Professor Raju Bhargava, who is a pioneer in the working on the idea of the secularism, even the people like, as somebody wrote about the post-college critical about the IITian, Madan, Ashish Nandi or Padda Chatterjee, they may be critical about the idea of secularism. It doesn't suit for us, the nations like us. We are not even modern, we have different levels. So many, it is a flawed way of understanding the secularism it is there in India. This is difficult like that people try to talk about. Consistently he argued for the democracy, the secularism, and also he working out what we mean by secularism, how to understand Indian experience of secularism, what is the problems involved with the secularism, continuously engaging. He's a man, he made a word and all. He is the present day situation of the secularism, he made it. The word all is replaced by majority. Respect only the majority religion. Never criticize it, but recklessly demonize others. Here the state is rid of the corrupt practice of opportunity distance not by restoring principal distance, but magically abolishing distance altogether. This is untrammeled majoritarianism masquerading as secularism that one opposes pseudo-secularism. They say talk of anybody opposing that one, they take a pseudo-secularism like that they used to say. We thought that it is very people, for public sake, they used to talk about we are the great country and also Sarva Dharma Sambhava, it is we are practicing, and our Vedantic tradition, it is a universal religion is there. Goes on quoting many people, it is there. And but at the same time, in the name of unity and diversity is missing. That anybody can feel it. Not only missing is not a problem at all. The way in the name of the where it is unity, it is only who is coming forward, and also the way it is brutally controlling, dictating what to eat, what kind of dress you have to wear, and what way it is there. This is not this. It looks like it is something. It is interrogating his own public in the name of the artificially created kind of the majority. You know it very well. It's nothing like that. Is one particular religion talking about. It doesn't have the majority at all. If you look at it in social terms, the way how it is a caste ridden and how what kind of problem it is there within that one many times it is there. There in the name of homogenization, they're not only critical about the plurality and also heterogeneity, and at the same time dictating certain things. Very small minorities in the country is established as in the name of majority. And it is also dangerous way of understanding the way it is taken for granted, not bothering anything. The whole, they created such kind of environment, the whole stationary, the very machinery of the state also mobilized in that direction. It looks like it is not only majority, democratic, and also commonsensically, they created the commonsensical hegemony to say that thing this way it is. Yes, you're right only. Other people have to be, it is to be subordinated. They not only creating the free fear among the other people, it is situated that one, yes, we are also wrong, we have to be abide by this one. The forgetting the very principles we came together, we lived together, we agreed upon this thing, we the people came together, and they didn't see the implications if you are imposing such a level, the where it is one way of looking at this thing. You yourself keep in the way for this thing, people has to compel to fight against the system, whatever the way, the kind of environment, to defend themselves and all. And that kind of situation it is creating the country today. And it is, let me see here, it is of course, it is, we have the Gandhian model, some very often people try to claim it, it is some kind of different sense of secularism, it can be promoted compared to the other people, as a friend said. Is in West also the distance between the where politics and also the religion, different level they may be maintaining different level. There's the politics, they make a public and a religion as opposed to private level, but there also, as it is French model, they're totally critical about the religion. Where American model, it is equidistant, the way they talk about the state should not interfere into the religion, religion should not interfere in this thing. And other European model, different level, it is established differently and all. The way it is unlike modern Western secularism that separates church and state for the sake of individual freedom and equality, have a place of neither community nor freedom. And whereas in Indian context, the way people like Gandhi talk about, Gandhian conception demands that state be secular for better relation between the members of all religious communities, especially in times of when they are estranged. And then it's a better model compared to even the Gandhi, the kind of political theology talks about. They maybe have some sense of hope it is there and sense of problems also there. The way it is appropriated by the Gandhi also it is there and all. Gandhi is appropriated one way, politically they try to kill it, the way in appropriation, other level, they made it as a symbol of the sanitary kind of thing, the name of Swachh Bharat, by forgetting pushing the politics in different level. At the same time, they're also fused together in the larger narrative of the religious nationalism. The way, of course, the kind of language used by the Gandhi, they may be used in a different purpose today and all. When come to the Indian constitutional secularism, where it is much more better, the way Rajiv Bhargava tried to hold that one, that is, the Indian constitutional secularism goes beyond interreligious issues to incorporate a transformative agenda aimed at reducing intra-religious domination. Its opposition to all forms of institutional religious dominations makes Indian constitutionalism as a distinctive. It is not only the way relations between the state and religion, it is not just equidistance and also principal distance, and more than that, it is also has a transformative agenda. Doesn't mean that it want to allow whatever the religion I talk about, but in the name of religion, religion is source of tradition. Tradition itself has a lot of problems are there. The caste-ridden society where we are living, it is included where the patriarchy and also the Brahmanical kind of the power that it is there. Somebody has to be intervened. State also has to be intervened in the name of this thing. No, whatever the religion state to talk about in the name of religion, it is not possible. It is a problem to the thing. When try to look at the point of the equality, liberty and fraternity, that has the more emphasized values, and also to have the better society and egalitarian society, definitely religion stands as a hurdle there. One has to attend the kind of religion also in a different level. That is where the Indian sense of where we try to look at the religion and all. And it is not that's why it is our model of secularism, not blind imitation of the West. State not only recognize all the religions, state does not maintain the equidistance to all religion, but maintains a principal distance. It is a normative approach towards a religion. State even interfere to condemn the illiberal and irrational practices in order to have the egalitarian society. And secularism here, it is not concerned with praising or debunking religions, but with the protection of the freedom of thought, beliefs and conscience of all citizens, whether they are religious or not. And that level, the way we can see that one, it is some way, it is the secularism has to negotiate with the democracy, and democracy also has to be negotiated with the democratic society where we are living. And that way, it is justice ensures that the majority religion does not discriminate against the minority. That level, state must stay true to values of the liberty and justice, and that level, the way we can look at the not only principal distance one has to maintain, and that one, and also it has to be critical about against the religious homogenization and also exclusion. And by preventing that level, one can look at by preventing the tight connection between the social norms and ethical religion. Indian constitution, wherever it is possible, discourage the formation of religion as conceived in exclusionary monotheistic tradition and all. The way it is, it's the main objectivity. The way it is when try to look at the secularism in terms of the normativity, its main objective is to destroy what is at the core of India's dominant social religion. It is deeply hierarchical caste system and its gender-based hierarchies. Every aspect of religious doctrine of practice cannot be respected. Respect for religion must be accompanied by the critique. It is not just, it is only in the name of secularism, concern for every religion and also respect for religion and all. And also, as I told, it is also, one has to be, there is important to sustain the real democracy and also secularism. It is also one kind of the critique of religion also, something we try to talk about. One way one can look at this one. And let me talk here, it is where the one more thinker, the Romula Thapar, she made a point about the defending secularism means defending our society, where she tried to talk about a secular society and polity does not mean abandoning religion. It means the religious identity of an Indian has to give way to the primary identity of the citizen, and the state has to guarantee the rights that come with this identity as the rights of the citizen. She tried to talk about reduce the way she tried to look at as a citizen has to be protected. This one, supporting secularism. Supporting secularism or dismantling it is not just a political slogan. It is deeply tied to the question of the kind of the society that we want. And if secularism is removed from the constitution, democracy becomes a victim with an unthinkable future. I would agree that a secular society is essential to democratic function, and it is that level one has to look at the importance of the. Suppose we remove, let us people debate, I talk about this from Western ideal, this ideal, or it is not the pseudo secularism. Suppose if we remove that ideal, what is there with us? We can't bear the theocracy. Theocracy, it can't be sustained. The way we try to make it, and also making the Hindu Rashtra, this one, it doesn't have any meaning and value other than that one and all. It is very difficult politically, and also as a normative level, and also in a society to sustain. We can't sustain as a decent egalitarian society, just only inviting the problems. We can't resolve that issue and all. Now now that is why secularism today one has to be extended to the other levels. It is fully practiced. Religion, the where it is the caste and race and gender, also one has to look at this one. And it is the problem is in India we are talking about secularism only in relation to the minorities. The debate of the majority and minority debate, came from the time of the nationalistic time, and where we try to talk about, it very well. It is not only this minority, it is there, and all this also we know the different social, religious minorities are there. Long back, Ambedkar also tried to state and minorities to make a point that when he understood the problem, communal majoritarian versus minorities, they talk about, and also it is more than that one. It is the secularism focused exclusively on the Hindu-Muslim issue, and neglect of the caste oppression was superficial and unlikely to embed itself to society. The Ambedkar concept of democracy is based on the fraternity and friendship based on civic equality and its bedrock and all. Ambedkar, secularism was the name for the journey that exceeds the Hindu-Muslim question and ideally culminate in the full equality and fraternity of all citizens of the society and all. That level one has to see the argument for the associated life, democratic society, not forget about the law, it should be society itself, this kind of values has to be there, and that's why it is also the secularism, it has to be shifted from the, as Raju Bhargava ultimately tried to talk about to sustain this one, shift of the focus from the politically led project to the socially driven movements for the justice. That way we can talk about, even though whatever the people they talk about in the public, secularism, now we should move from that level to the very socially driven movement for the justice. Then other issues automatically one can discuss, whether caste, gender or anything. And then he suggested one more point, that the shift of emphasis from inter-religious to intra-religious issues. Most of the time we try to talk about the Hindu versus Muslim or Sikh, some other level we try to talk about inter-religious. But let us focus much on that one, about the way you try to talk about intra-religious in terms of the dominance, oppression, problem, and also looking for the justice and rights and dignity. In other way, secularism, it is for the democracy, it is for the upholding of the dignity, and there is also upholding the values of the country, their civilization value. We are lived for the long time, and also it is also one kind of defend ourselves and to have the better society. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for very passionately arguing for the relationship between secularism, transformative dimension of it, and the constitutional aspects. Now, I would open the stage for questions, if any. Yeah. So the first question is by Sabdeshwa Chakraborty. May I call? Yeah. You can.
Hello. Thank you, professors, for your wonderful talks. My question, I have mainly two questions. First one is to Professor Williams, and the second is to Professor Keshav. My short question to Professor Williams is your idea of this fractal understanding of politics and also of secularism. So I somewhat understand your proposal, but I'm saying, what if we we shift from the fractal understanding to a more topological understanding. So we are shifting from geometry to topology, where we are not anymore fixed on clear, well-defined spaces, well-defined marked insides and outside territories, but there is a more of a kind of distorted, deformed space where these different aspects of the state, as you mentioned, the different nine sides, or the six, or the cube structure that you said, all of these sides are somewhere also fusing into the other, and they are also collapsing onto the other, and the other is also affecting this other sides. So this comes from my studies in psychoanalysis, in Lacanian psychoanalysis. So this is just a question that I am asking you. And my second question is broadly to all the speakers on the panel, that our chair wonderfully introduced the notion of secularism as, like has been defined generally, as a separation between politics and religion. But while that is a very well accepted and established understanding of the term, but then this difference, the dichotomy between religion and politics, also implies sort of a mutual exclusive, like religion and politics, they're different things. While we also already know that politics is always already present in religion in some form or the other. So to what extent should we rethink or renegotiate the idea of secularism itself? Because again, it is fairly established knowledge that the roots of secularism go back to religious traditions. In the West, at least, the Book of Matthew has that famous division between the rule of God and the rule of Tsar. They should be different. So it's already there in the Bible in some form or the other. So that has been like.
Sorry, can you keep your question brief? I'm so sorry.
Yes. I'm done. So this historical, this negation of the negation thing has been going on. So just my question is, how right now, as things stand today, how do we understand this intermingling of religion in politics and politics in religion, this thing? So thank you.
So I would like, first you would like to respond.
Yeah, as you are right, Sabdash, right? The way is not a two different domains. It is as if religion doesn't have politics and the politics doesn't have the internalized the religion. Politics itself is a governance. The governance based on certain kind of values. The values, the source is definitely tradition. In the same way, religion also is the religious authority. It is coming some kind of, it is dictating some kind of the power, and this way one has to. You have seen the whole medieval societies. It is not only just religions ruling that one, and it is the way, it is also authority, interpreting the law and text, that level, the way excess it is there and against that one. That's why here, better example, where again I try to use the Mark Jurgens-Meyer, I talk about this. The problem with today we are talking very much worried about the politicization of the religion. Very often we have the complaints about the religions got politicized. It is not like that earlier, it is like that. Of course, one may have the problem with one particular way of doing the kind of the politics. There's other level also one can there, and all the people like Ambedkar differentiate from he also argued for the religion. It's a different way of looking at the religion. Religion stands on the moralistic principle, and also is a godless and also soulless kind of religion, and very particularly modern. Well, here what we can look at that, where he talk about the politicization of the religion, and also religionization of the politics, and also politicization of them. I am preferring the politicization of the religion. Politicization of religion differs from the religionization of the politics and all. Politicization of religion means one can question what is the religious authority and power, relation between God and also man, and where it is there. That level you can critique about that one. That is really the politics, and that way the most of the people, where we can say from the Dewey to other people, where they can engage the way the democratizing the religion, like that they talk about. Not only even the Marxists also, the way they critical about that one is one way we can look at the politicization of religion can be preferred in place of the religious or the politics. but at the same time, one has to look at the invariable relation between the politics and religion. One has to recognize rather than we're negating the concept, either the politics or religion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite Professor Mike to respond to the question, and then Amandeep, sir.
So I really like this question because it implies the very interesting topic of the geographical extension of state power or a nation. Early on, Montesquieu posited that perhaps there was a limit to power because of the geographical differences that occur in countries, among people, among thoughts, traditions. And yet this was overcome by the idea of federalism, the idea that if you have a federal system, you can have a larger country, a larger economy, a larger army, more resources, more economic systems working together for the common good. If there is a geography of justice, it can increase the ability of a minority to protect itself against a majority, because particularly in the United States, we look to the Constitutional Convention and the Federalist Papers, which were a scholarly argument for the adoption of the new Constitution in 1787. In the Federalist Paper number 10, James Madison, who later became president, argued that a majority faction can be prevented from occurring in the first place if you have enough geography and enough difference among peoples that it's hard for anyone to form a majority faction. There will be too many factions. So whereas in a smaller country, you might have a majority faction occur, the larger the country gets, the more tendency there is for that faction to be subdivided by the people who live on the coast, and they're worried about coastal things, and the people who live in the mountains, and they've got mountain issues, and the people who live on the border with such and such a country, and they're more concerned with that, and the people who live in the rice growing areas and the farmlands who are prioritizing those issues. And therefore, with an extension of geography, you can have an extension of justice. So there is a geography of justice. I'm glad you mentioned this. And the opposite is to make a country smaller. So there's a lot of tendencies in America to say, well, you know, the state of Washington is going to make its own country. It's going to leave the Federation. It wants to be its own country. What they don't understand is they are going to exacerbate the problem of a majority faction oppressing a minority faction. They believe that they are oppressed now, and they will become a more just society because they're going to be independent. The fact is they haven't solved the problem of why they have a majority-minority problem in their lands. What they want to do is simply flip the oppression chain around. So what the solution, according to Madison, is increase the geographical scope, include more people, include more minority factions of all types, whether it's minority factions based on race or caste or gender or any other one you can imagine. There will be many majorities that are thwarted because minorities will come together on various political issues, economic issues, geopolitical issues, this kind of thing. So thank you for this question.
Thank you, Professor Mike. Now I invite Amandeep sir to answer the question. If you want to answer the question that he asked, because it was general question asked too. Okay. So now we have Khushbu and Chetna. I think we can take the questions together and then the panelists will reply. Khushbu first.
Those kind of concepts which are enshrined in Guru Granth Sahib. So basically that has a reason within itself which is not which does not makes a reason as a bifurcation between the two. So you have both aspects which are intermingled in those understandings. So.
Thank you, sir. I think this was a very important point. Now, may I request, do you want to answer this question?
Yeah, she raised a very important question. What kind of reason we have to supposed to follow? Then other is that suppose we are criticizing the modernity, ultimately where you land up and all. Yes, this debate is already initiated by where the people like Charles Taylor talking about the not just liberal modernity and also multiple modernity they talk about. And modernity is not centered as individual centric and also community centric and all, where communitarians also differs with that. That means the very social base where we try to talk about. Then from there we try to articulate the modernity in a different sense rather than going for the irrational and also reactionary kind of the way by criticizing the modernity. There is a possibility they gave up and also the moral evaluation of that also one possible, but at the same time taking the primacy to the social life. That is one level. When you're talking about reason, it is also other way it can be addressed. The reason you might have known about Akhil Bilgrami also makes a point. Definitely you are reflecting on that idea when you try to look at the Gandhi reason, limitation of reason you're talking about. Limitation of the reason what we generally are understood. And there it is a reason, try to look at India from the point of the cognitive point of view, but not experience, different level also it is there and all. That level you give the reason. By understanding the reason, reducing to the way it is, the way they understood in liberal sense or scientific and all. So it has to be expanded, the idea of the reason. There is a possibility it is there to look at this. That way, there's a multiple modernities are there, the reasoning also different. Then further example, we can look at the where postmodernists, the where Foucault I talk about, the whose modernity, whose reason you are talking about. That way, the way margins and also which are negated and all, that different kind of reason also they try to put forward. One can be work very particularly people are oppressed in the name of the uniformity or liberal kind of modernity. There is a possibility to look at that one. But at the same time, one has to look at the minimal level and also one has to engage rather than negating the modernity. There's a possibility it is there for the emancipation to look at.
Thank you, sir. I think this is a very important point as you pointed out, Bilgrami. I think Bilgrami makes a distinction between thick rationality and thin rationality. Thin rationality in a way accommodates emotions, passion as well as faith. And now coming to the question that was asked to me by Chetna is like, I feel that sometimes we tend to conflate modernity with secularism, which Nandi in that sense is trying to do, where he's trying to argue that modernity, secularism and nation state, they were one in Indian sense, they were imposed on India. And in that sense, what he's trying to argue is that religion becomes, ideology rather than becoming faith. So I don't know the answer, but probably I feel that the life world, possibly we need to explore the pre-modern life world. If there are any potentials, democratic potentials, I don't know the answer. But someone like Nandi would say that pre-modern life world had those possible liberative, democratic, dialogical potentials, which somehow got suppressed with religion becoming ideology, with secularism. So that could be his response. I'm still pondering. Now, can I request Professor Thakur to, if he wants to speak something on this for like 2 minutes?
Thank you, Varun. I think it's a very, very interesting debate that has just ignited. And I see a potential in the fractal geometry and how it can also resolve that. I would suggest that we should look at the concept of secularism also and the debate between secularism and religion by creating layers in the idea of secularism. So one layer is probably relation between state and religion. Most of the debates in political science and social sciences are focused on state and religion thing, where the challenge is that how do you manage multicultural society or multi-religious society? The challenge that Indian or Asian societies have been facing since long, and in that one can go back to Ashoka or Akbar to see how they were managing this. Of course, it was not modern period, things were very different, but
Thank you so much to the panelists and to everyone present here. Now, I think we are already running late, so I request you to for lunch. So for lunch there. Thank you so much. We are also meeting after half an hour for the next session, Sabir. Thank you so much.